The next presenter is Olabimpe. I request Olabimpe to present on the topic Prevalence and Determining Factors of Undernutrition among under 5 children in 3 local government areas of Niger State, Nigeria. Over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Olabimpe Gbadeyan, and my co-researcher is Dr. Adeola Gbadeyan. We are presenting the prevalence and determining factor of undernutrition among under 5 children in 3 local government areas of Niger State, Nigeria. The introduction. Undernutrition is defined as the deficiency, excesses, or imbalance in a person intake of energy and or nutrients, according to WHO. Now, what are the causes of undernutrition? They are actually multifactorial. We have the environmental factors, the behavioral, socioeconomic, sciences, and other factors. Under the environmental factors, there are the intrinsic factors, which are the factors in the immediate environment of the under 5. And these are water, sanitation, hygiene. These are the leading cause of infection in children. And we have the triple killer in children, which are diarrhea, respiratory, and malaria infections. Then the extrinsic factors, these are factors that are outside the immediate vicinity of the under 5, the global warming, which has led to food insecurity. Then we have the insecurity in the land due to banditry, terrorism, and these are led to internal displacements and many other things, and lack of food for people that are displaced. Then the second is the behavioral factor. There are adverse cultural practices like breastfeeding, polygamy, which is much in this part of the country. It is more or less like endemic because we are in the northern part of the country. Then there are also some beliefs which are against good nutrition for the under 5. Also, intimate partner violence and gender violence, another factor. On socioeconomic factor, the high poverty index in any environment will lead to undernutrition because people will not be able to afford food. Then also reduce maternal education. This hinder the economic power and knowledge of a woman, and also poor housing environments. We have the health services, poor services. Like in our own environment, the brain drain has made many of the health expertise to leave the country. Then also the insecurity has made many also not to be efficient. And all this can lead to reduced pediatric nutritionists in the environment. And it's the function of these nutritionists to educate under 5 mothers about the nutrition of their children, measuring of the anthropometric indicator, and also follow-up. Other factors are congenital diseases associated with failure to thrive, maternal illnesses, and early return to work. And because of the economic depression, many women have to go to work immediately after birth, as early as 6 weeks after birth, or even 2 months. And with this, they could not actually take care of the children feeding. Now, the effects of undernutrition, we have the poor growth, high risk of infection, delay recovery from infection or sicknesses, also repeated illnesses, high admission rates into hospital. There is the poor intellectual ability, because when the child cannot get all the nutrient that is needed for the brain to grow, it will affect the cognitive function of the child in later life. And of course, the high infants and under 5 morbidity and mortality rates also will be high. And it has been reported and documented that almost half of under 5 mortality are in the low and middle income countries. And these are the countries also that have high prevalence of undernutrition. Now, the classification of undernutrition, we have 2 broad types. First is the overnutrition, which is childhood obesity. And this is measured using the BMI, the body mass index. Then second is the undernutrition, which is the focus of this study. We have stunting, wasting, and underweight. There is also the protein energy malnutrition with subtype of kwashiorkor and marasmus. Then we have the vitamin and minerals deficiency. Now, the definition of undernutrition indicators, like I said, our study is focused on stunting, wasting, and underweight. What is stunting? It is the failure to achieve expected height for age, which is caused by chronic deprivation of nutrients. And it is measured using the height for age standardized test score of at least -2 standard deviation below the median of WHO growth standard. There is a WHO growth standard that is used to do the measurement and the calculation. Now, wasting is the recent lack of nutrition due to illness, temporary lack of food. It is not a constant state, because when food and other nutrients are available, the child can regain the adipose tissue and the muscle that has been lost. It is measured using weight for length standardized test score, and for children under 6 months. While those ones above 6 months, we use the weight for heights of at least -2 standard deviation below the median of WHO growth standard. Now, the last is the underweight. This is a composite of stunting and wasting. It's the combination. It indicates the magnitude of nutrition over time and is useful for population health and mortality in children. The measurement also is using the weight for a standardized test score of at least -2 standard deviation below the median of WHO growth standard, or a mid-upper arm circumference of less than 115 millimeter, plus minus presence of edema. Now, these are pictorial view to give us more understanding of what we are talking about. Like all these 4 pictures, they are pictures of under 5 of the same age. Let's assume they are 4 years old. Now, for this is the normal in height and in the weight. When we talk of wasting, we can see from the picture that this child, the weight is lower compared to this. So we have in wasting low weight for height, but the height is still the same thing. While in stunting, it stands for low height for the age. This child is of the same age as this, but the child is short because of the deprivation of nutrients. And here we have low height for age. While underweight is the combination of these two. So the child is both short and is also having a low weight. The second one is also an annotated diagram to still bring in the same message. For the normal, we can see this child, they are of the same age range. The height is normal, the weight is normal. And here, a wasted child, the weight is low and the height is still normal. And here is stunting, the height is short and the weight is normal or may not be normal. Then for the underweight, as I said, is the combination of the two. So this child is both underweight, is both stunted and wasted. So the height is short and the weight is low. Now, what are the statistics of undernutrition? Globally, there are estimates of 149 million stunted children, according to WHO 2021 data. Then 49 million are wasted. We have 100 million underweight who are, or million underweighted under 5, and 38.9 million are overweight. Now, what was the global prevalence of statistics in the of undernutrition? In terms of prevalence, globally, we have this table. Globally, we have 33.1 as stunting. Also in Africa, 29.1, Sub-Saharan Africa, 39, and we can see where Nigeria stands, 33.3, just a bit better than the Africa, just a bit better than the global. But otherwise, for Africa, Nigeria is even higher, and only Sub-Saharan Africa is better. But in 2000, stunting prevalence in Nigeria was 42.3. So we are having a kind of a reduction now. But then from the conclusion of this study, and with all that has been happening in the country for the past 5 years, it's actually an increase we are getting. For wasting, if you look at the statistic here, for Nigeria is almost the same thing as the global prevalence. And for underweight, Nigeria is not faring better at all. Our value figure is far, far better than global Africa and even sub-Saharan Africa. This is according to the World Bank data 2020. Now, under 5 population in Nigeria stand at 32.9 million as of Worldometer 2021. Infant mortality rate 54.7 to 1,000 live births, while Ghana is having 30.8 at the same period. Under 5 mortality rate 90.2 to 1,000 live births, while Ghana has 44.69 at the same 2021. From here, we could see that Nigeria is not faring well in infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, which undernutrition is part of the causative factor. Now, reason for this study. The first reason is due to the observation of gross anomaly in weight for age of under 5 children during pediatrics outpatient in the author's facility. Now, a pilot study was just conducted in 2021. And it was after this that we now move to the real study. The second reason has to do with the quarter factors of what is going on in the country, especially in Niger State, which is an hotspot of the ongoing terrorism. We have number 1, the economic depression. High poverty index and inflation are very high, and this compromises the nutrition of under 5. Insecurity is the second factor. A lot of banditry, especially in the rural area. We have the terrorism, kidnapping, farmland encroachment, and all this led to displacement. And when there is displacement, to get food is very hard, and people get whatever comes their way. Now, the third factor is the post-COVID-19 pandemic job loss, which has led to many people losing their job, many household heads, and up to now, many families have not recovered from this. Many businesses have not. The last there is the global warming, which has led to low agricultural outputs, high cost of food, etc. And the third reason is to bridge the gap in literature, as no independent study on this topic has been conducted in the 3 local governments before. Now, the research question are, what are the prevalence of undernutrition indicator among under 5 children residing in the 3 local governments? Are there any determinants associated with undernutrition among the under 5 children in these 3 local governments? And the overall aim of the study is to use anthropometric measurement to assess the nutritional status of under 5 children in the 3 local governments. Objective 1 of the study is to determine the prevalence of undernutrition in under 5 children in the selected 3 local governments, while the second objective is to explore some possible determinants contributing to undernutrition among under 5 children in the selected 3 local governments. The null hypothesis 1 is, for the objective 1, is there would be no significant undernutrition among the under 5, while the alternate for that is there would be significant undernutrition among the under 5. Objective 2, the null hypothesis is there would be no significant determinant associated with undernutrition among the under 5 in the selected area, while the alternative hypothesis is there has significant determinants among under 5 in the selected area. Now, the methodology. The study design was a cross-sectional community base, and this was found to be appropriate for prevalence study because it is descriptive and also periodic. The study setting, we have the Suleja, which is an urban settlement. There is Tafa, also the second settlement is a semi-urban area. And we have Gurara, which is a rural area. Their population are indicated here. The study period was between June and August 2022. The sampling technique was a 2-stage cluster sampling method. Niger State has 25 local governments. The local government were divided as clusters. And from this cluster, 3 local governments were picked at the first. Then each of the local government has 10 wards. So from the 10 wards, we pick 4. But eventually, for Suleja local government, we're able to go to 4 wards. In Tafa, 4 wards. In Gurara, only 3 wards were covered because of insecurity, and we could not get to the interior. After this, there is simple sampling method, random sampling method were used to select eligible children from the wards. Inclusion criteria were all the under 5 children who resident in the local government. They have equal opportunity. exclusion criteria were special needs children, chronically ill, those one on transit, or those that the mother refused. Sampling size was calculated independently using the national prevalence of stunting, wasting, and underweight, and a total of 1,029 with a 10 non-response rate was obtained. However, 2,250 were surveyed for a robust sample. Prescription was taken at 5. Level of confidence was at 95%. Now, the research tools were those as recommended by WHO. The first were the digital infant and bedroom size measuring scale, which we use for the weight to the nearest kilogram. Then for the mid upper arm circumference, we use tricolor tapes. Standard and portable infantometer were used for the infant length, while wall growth meter were used for the older children. Then the second tools were structured questionnaire, which were in the English language, socio-demographic of children and mother, maternal and child health, socioeconomic and environmental factor, and maternal knowledge of malnutrition and health-seeking behavior were the question asked. Data collection were done in the morning hour by experienced and trained nutritional community health worker in each local government. We obtained the consent from the parents, and we made the children to be comfortable with light dresses and barefooted. Then candies were given to the children as appreciation. Informants were the under 5 mothers, and training and briefing of the worker were done a week before data collection by the nutritional focal person for each local government and the researchers ourselves. Ethical approval were obtained from the primary health management board of each local government, and also community leader consent were taken verbally. The data analysis was done for the descriptive IBM SPSS for both descriptive and inferential statistics, and the ENA for SMART were used to calculate prevalence using the WHO standard obtained from the WHO website. Now, going to the result and the discussion. From our study, the overall stunting prevalence for the 3 local governments were 47.4, while the national prevalence as at when this was done was 35%. While for wasting, we got 22.6% for wasting for the 3 local governments. Then also underweight was 32.7, while the national prevalence was 18. National prevalence for wasting was 7 compared to 22.6% that we got. Then looking at the local government individually, we can see that stunting in Suleja, Tafa, and Gurara were very high, while severe stunting was higher in Suleja local government, moderate stunting in Gurara local governments, while wasting was higher in Tafa local government area, and severe underweight was in Suleja local government area. Now, looking at the Gurara local government area, we can see this one in yellow. It shows us being a rural area, all these prevalences were low. Moderate wasting, underweight, severe underweight, and moderate underweight were low. In further on in the discussion, we see the reason why this one was like that. Now, still on the result and discussion, for the determinants for stunting, this table 2 shows us the statistically significant determinant of stunting in bivariate and multivariate logistic regression. We can see here the age of child, maternal education, family type, duration of breastfeeding, health-seeking behavior, and local governments were associated with stunting. For the age of the child, the level 49 months to 59 months reduced the odds of stunting, while maternal education to the level of polytechnic also reduced the odds. Family type, polygamous surprisingly reduced the odds, but most study has found that polygamous usually increases the odds. But what we noticed in these 3 areas were the women that were still in marriage. During the demographic collection, we found out that 88% of the women were still in marriage. And that being the case, they were there to still see to the feeding of their children. Now, duration of breastfeeding, we can see here that children that were fed from 6 to 1 year, they have a higher risk of stunting. And this could be explained with, by that time, no much nutrients is coming from the breast. Then egg seeking, for app fender, we see that those that never went to ABA medication, they have a reduced odd of stunting. Then for the local government, Suleja and Gurara, the odds were reduced. Now for wasting, we have mother education, father education, marital status, duration of breastfeeding, and buying of drinking water to be associated with wasting. For the education of the mother, women that stop their education at JSS have a higher odd for their children. While father education, a father that is educated to NC and Polytechnic, the odd of wasting for the children is low. And this could be because the economic power of the father will be higher. For marital status, widows have 4.6 odd of having their children wasted. It is not unexpected because widows have low economic power and they are dependent on other family members. And with the way the economy is, they may not be getting all the sufficient assistance they need from other family members who are also distressed. Duration of breastfeeding, baby that were breastfed 6 to 1 year have an increased odd of wasting. The same reason we gave in terms of the stunting. Then buying of drinking water. The buying of the drinking water also increased the odd because most of the water are likely to be contaminated and increase diarrhea diseases in the children and other infection. Then health-seeking behavior also affected it. Now on underweight, the factor that were determinant of underweight are age of the child, further education, breastfeeding, duration of breastfeeding, type of drinking water, knowledge of the mother on health-seeking, and okay, yes. Then for the age, it was discovered that these 13 to 24, 25 to 36, they have a lower odd of underweight. While further education, those that have Islamic education and primary education, their children have higher odd of being underweight, still linked to the economy factor. Then breastfeeding reduces the odd of underweight. Duration of breastfeeding increases the odd, that is from 6 months to 2 years. We have type of drinking water here. Borehole water also increases the odd. It's different from the pipe-borne water. Now, knowledge, in maternal knowledge about health seeking reduces the odd, which is expected. Then the health seeking behavior of the mother, those people that go to drugstore are like pharmacy, they have reduced odd. Now, continuing on the result and the discussion, it was also discovered that severe stunting was across all the age group as it was in all the local government area, while severe wasting was more in 6 to 17 months and least in 42 to 53 months, while moderate was more in 6 to 7 months. Now, severe underweight more in 30 to 41 months and 6 to 17 months. We also noticed some geographical differences in our results, like underweight was more in the urban area. We have 38.8 in Suleja compared to 10.1 in Gurara. Then maternal age also was found that in the rural area, which is Gurara, there were many younger women who has married before the age of 20 years. We have 15.2% compared to 5.3 in Suleja, because in Suleja and Tava, there were more educated people there. Maternal education also, this one reflected this maternal age. In Gurara, which is the rural area, 62% of the mother had no formal education, and there was 0% who attended university. Versus the 15.3% in Suleja who attended university and 8.4 who attended university in Gurara local government. On exclusive breastfeeding, age of complementary feeding, the same pattern demonstrated. The same thing with duration of breastfeeding, that the indices were worst in the rural area of Gurara compared to the suburban and the urban area of Suleja and Tava. The sources of water, the same thing, pipe-borne water was only 1% in Gurara, while 51% of the households that were surveyed had pipe-borne water in Suleja. Housing type, in Gurara, we have 7.9 who are living in flats compared to 84 in Suleja, while the ownership in Tafa, 45.5 were owned their houses compared to in the, while in Gurara, 45.3 owned their houses compared to 45.9 in Suleja. Type of toilets, the improved and the none. In Gurara, 43.9% of the people have improved sanitation, while compared to 7.6 in Tava, and 14.3 have none, no access to any toilet type in Gurara compared to 2.3 in Suleja. In maternal nutritional knowledge, we find that in Gurara, 37.9 have no knowledge on nutrition of their children, while 59.6 in Gurara, 37.9 have knowledge of children nutrition, while in Tava, 58.6 have knowledge about childhood nutrition. Health-seeking behavior, in Gurara, 81.8 were those that patronize local apps compared to 45.9 in the urban and the semi-urban area. And this also has been found in previous studies that most people in the rural area, they patronize all the local ABA vendors more than in the urban area. Still on the results, all the differences that we made mention of and we found, the reason behind them, what we concluded from the study were due to poverty, inadequate and unmanned health facilities in the rural area, the local belief of the people, lack of trust in the health care provider, and also the gross illiteracy that existed among the women there. Now, the limitation to the study, we use geographical zone instead of the ethnic group, because in Nigeria, there are about 371 ethnic groups. So only the geographical zone were used. Also, another limitation is the income of household head, which was not included because in most studies, we really want to see the poverty index, how it relates to the undernutrition. But we could not do this because we noticed that majority were self-employed. About 75 of all the women that were interviewed were self-employed. And a standardized method is needed to calculate the household wealth index, which we could not do before we embark on the research. For further study or research, we hope that household wealth index will be brought in. Then the role of intimate partner violence, which we are not able to look into, and there will be a full compare between the determinants in the 3 local government area. For conflict of interest, none. In conclusion, the high prevalence of stunting, wasting, and underweight obtained from the 3 local governments are critical. Similarly, significant determinants of undernutrition were demonstrated. Obtained prevalence are very high versus the newly projected WHO threshold, which indicated less than 10% for stunting and less than 5% for wasting compared to what was obtained in this study for public health significance. Higher than the global, the prevalence we obtained was higher than the global, higher than African prevalence, higher than the average for sub-Saharan Africa, and also the national average. This is in tandem with the prevailing economic depression, high unemployment of young parents, ongoing insecurity, global warming effects, and internal displacement, etc. And therefore, urgent action are needed from all stakeholders in order to see the future health of under 5 and the unborn generation to make achievable and sustainable development goal which quotes to end all form of malnutrition by 2030. These are my references. And here is an undernourished child saying, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation.